Good evening, everyone. Stop that screen. So, I've changed the avatar. What do you think? The last time it was a bit too pale. Uh, where do I begin? There was a comment, I think it was by Sam, asking if there was any literature I've read or read in relation to the kind of things I talk about. No, not particularly. Um, maybe in the sense of children's stories, because I don't know, maybe a more deeper, profound meaning of having to go back to basics. But I like children's stories. Um, so I hope everyone is well. Okay, I have a little exercise to help us put into better care, more attention to our self care, and put into better practice. So it's something that doesn't get neglected or glossed over or not taken into account. Now, bear in mind what I'm going to be discussing with this exercise might not necessarily be something you particularly need to do. There will need to be some discernment and discretion involved. So try not to take everything so literal. Um, adapt it to your own lives. This is a personal sort of thing for you. It's not going to be a thing that will suit everyone exactly. Well, it shouldn't do really. There'll need to be some kind of modification. But what inspired me to come up with this exercise? Oh, you might have noticed in my community tab section, I've left a simple comment, says check in, and I just blurted out whatever was, whatever came to the forefront of my mind. And in doing so, it helps to offload any ruminating someone may have, subconscious thoughts perhaps that are just bouncing around inside that cranium. Um, and for me, anyway, it's important to be able to offload some of this stuff. Otherwise, a expression of bottling things up, you might be familiar with, can happen. And so this idea of bottling up your emotions or maybe thoughts can become problematic. And this is what this exercise is going to try to alleviate some of that tension, because it builds up, and as you know, you don't notice until one day something explosive happens. So reading my script here a little bit, forgive me, I have to. Sometimes deciding what to say or not, and how much of it can be challenging. There are things you want to keep to yourself, but sometimes it can be just too much. Sometimes you need to do or say something. Along with this balancing act is how you feel about it. How do you feel about telling someone how you feel? And for some, this isn't a problem as such, as they manage their thoughts and feelings adequately. A separate problem is maybe how you might be uncomfortable and start poking around when and where perhaps you shouldn't be. But then sometimes it's a good idea to check in on someone. If only things were that simple. So personally, I don't like thinking about regret as I traverse through life. And I'd rather make a mistake than have to regret not having said anything that mattered to me at the time. So I hope that gives a little bit of a context. Now we're going to be talking about introverts and extroverts because some people are more inwardly focused and directed with their attention, and some extroverted. But in both cases, there is a problem. Well, not careful. There's a problem with regulating self-control. The emotions and thoughts are not really being processed, and instead they're being avoided. There's no calibrating going on. It hurts you, and it hurts those around you. Likelihood you'll have a distorted self-image and start seeing yourself as the problem, through self-blaming, rather than seeing yourself as someone who needs help with a problem. So that's an important point to recognize, so that you don't start to really beat yourself down and start identifying as the problem. You're a human, you're a person, you have an issue you're dealing with. We can, together, or under your own, with your own self-management, you'll be able to treat this issue a lot more maturely. So this analogy of a bottle is a container fundamentally. And problems with managing this container will impact other areas of your life. Your concentration will be poorer, as your anxiety likely would increase. Your health may slip, your work performance disrupted, your attitude, your dependency increases, as you need people to support you. That word dependency there, I wasn't too sure if I should change it with reliance, because sometimes you do need to depend on people you can trust. So don't associate dependency in this sense with shame on you. In a way, you could say, I'm using this stream and my platform to offload and vent out, and I am in some regards dependent on that outlet, because if there wasn't a way for me to project it outwards, then where is it going? It stays stuck in me. So you could say I'm being dependent on the stream, and through writing and through these talks. But that's not necessarily with dependency on people as such. Anyway, so as part of your self-care, every week I'm going to try and post a review on things, just things I've been thinking about and feelings. It doesn't have to make sense. It's not for really your benefit. It's just for my benefit. So for the more introverted types among you, bottling up might be might be a more damaging issue for the introvert, because if you're introverted, you're gonna need to extrovert to get the benefit from this exercise. And this is good, so that you don't become so guarded, so trusting, and torture yourself inside your own head. And if this isn't done in some way, you'll become well, if this isn't done in some way, things will one day someone might ask how you're doing, and then you erupt and overwhelm them. This is also known as oversharing. So if you've ever done this kind of exploding thing where it's like emotional vomit, perhaps, is one way of describing it, but I shouldn't really ridicule it. This is really a sign of someone who has kept things inside, so be a bit more empathetic. If you have done this, then you might feel guilt afterwards because you know you were being too much. If this thing that you were bottling up was so painful to you to hold on to, you might sort of start to think that the person you've vomited over, you believe that you're hurting them. And really, if they were someone who cares for you, they might just feel sorry for you because of what's happened to you. So we can see that as a consequence of this management, there are additional distortions taking place unnecessarily. And if this doesn't change, likely you'll make it worse because you'll hold it in again that much more, becoming more disconnected and withdrawn. And just to repeat the cycle, it will inevitably explode at some point later on. And it should be obvious that by bottling it up in such a way, you're not really processing the emotion. You're kind of locking skeletons in closets and sweeping it under the rug, and it's festering. But why is it you're doing that? Because you want to dismiss them altogether, and you don't know how. So this is how you're doing it. It's a form of coping. Short-term results in a way, but it doesn't resolve the issue. So more profoundly, if you deny parts of yourself in this way, then you're denying parts of who you are and the life that you want to have. Now, for the more extroverted people, who are regularly spilling their contents out, then you're going to need to introvert. You're going to have to do the other direction. You can do this privately with something like keeping recording entries in a diary. What you may have experienced is that you're pouring out too much, resulting in never really being able to process emotions and becoming avoidant of them. So we see here in both cases, emotions aren't, or thoughts aren't being processed. They're being shifted to places that aren't responsible for them. You have to return that responsibility to yourself and deal with them. They're your thoughts, they're your emotions. So you might appear during these episodes as someone who might be hysterical or act inappropriately in social settings. What could end up happening is you start to withdraw from people, sensing that you're like a hot potato and annoying them. And instead of feeling guilt and shame like the introvert might, you might lean more into feeling embarrassed. So you could perhaps try and bottle it in, but in doing so, the likely sort of result will be a more volatile, unprovoked explosion. The harder you try and bite your tongue, you might find yourself blurting out even more, because it's something in your sort of your makeup, your character that used to be released. And the key word of calibration comes in both cases of the introvert and the extrovert. And in order to calibrate, well, this is a little of a tangent. Calibration is a skill. It's one thing to give someone a tool, but to calibrate is a bit like refining, honing that tool, and making adjustments so that you can use the tool properly. It comes with experience, comes with practice. So, and by doing this exercise, we're going to be working our way into, hopefully you'll be able to calibrate or regulate this container of a bottle, whether you keep it inside or whether you just let it all out. But you can use it for what it's actually there for. And with in both cases, but I mentioned it here with the extroverts, if this doesn't change, if you don't do anything about this arrangement you've got going on, your perception of who you are might start to change, your sense of self. Which, if you look into sort of like your identity or who you think you are, is going to cause a disruption. So I propose a checking in type of exercise. You can be creative, maybe do pie charts or use colors, bar graphs. I use bar graphs with my kid, like an energy, like those of you who know, like Street Fighter kind of thing, energy bars. So because she's a visually based child through the autism, so I'll say to her, she's struggling, and that's her coping bar. And when the coping bar gets to 0, that's a meltdown. So as you know, I'll try and caution her and say like, hey, we're getting low here. We need to be mindful of it. And how you want to label the categories is up to you. Obviously, whatever you feel relevant. There is no set way about this. Sometimes just talking to a friend, a trusted friend or two, and try not to overload one person, please. Having a support network. This is like a community here, so is better. Who is willing to listen to you, just for a bit, mind you, because if you're not careful, this can trigger a rant, and there you are. You're trying to avoid oversharing and just blabbering your mouth. So if you are going to have a friend as a listening ear to check in on you, keep it short. Maybe in the form of text messaging. So keep it short and to the point. And that's another skill built into this, is articulating yourself with precision, condensing, so that you can have a better hold and grasp of what it is you're doing. It might not come naturally at first. You might start off saying more than necessary or recording more information than necessary. But as time progresses, you can whittle it down and get it much more poignant. What's important isn't so much the detail of the content. It is the processing and being able to express what we're ruminating on. It's just the skill of communication. Doesn't even, it can be gobbledygook, sort of. I'm not trying not to be too abstract, but so put it into practice. Just a couple of sentences, nothing too much, of whatever you want to say that's been pressing on your mind. Do this regularly as part of a routine, and you'll train yourself to recognize these issues, formulate them into nuggets, and then you can start to process them that much easier and get rid of them. You might also start to see patterns and be able to catch yourself when a balance is going off. So this isn't about oversharing or being sort of virtue open, oh look at me kind of thing. This is more about you being responsible. So, so here are some rules. No long paragraphs. In fact, the shorter, concise, and more to the point, the better. Do not compare yourself to other people. If you do this, you will be harming yourself. And I mean it. Do not compare your record keeping or however it is you're deciding to express what it is you're going through with other people. You respect other people's privacy and their reports. If you choose to do a report, you don't have to do this exercise if you don't want to. These are subjective reports, and so if you were to be foolish enough to start trying to compare yourself, if you were in their shoes, you would score, or it would be different because you are not them and they are not you. So basically, do not be tempted. Just don't go there in terms of, oh, they said this. How does that make me feel? It's irrelevant. Okay, so, and if you've got several areas of development, let's say, or issues pressing on your mind, that are part of this sort of ongoing process, you could plot it out in a sort of table format if you want, just some ideas, like and rate it with a score, like a 0 to 10. So I've got a couple of examples. Let me share a screen here. Hopefully it will work well. I want to share it. I'll shout out some people. So D-Man, thank you for posting that link. Shadrach, Freebird, JR, Iridium, Silver Bullets, Primo, and whoever else is watching. Thank you all for coming here. Let's see. Which one is it? Hang on. It's not showing up. Okay. 1 second. Let's see if this works. Hopefully it does. Right, is that big enough for people to read? I hope so. Maybe I'll put it on a more bigger screen. So you could do something like this. Even the first example is already a little bit too much. And you don't have to put so present it however you feel, basically. And like you could separate these if you wanted to into, if that was important. And this doesn't necessarily have to be even just like your emotional state or your mental well-being. I mean, you could devise a kind of record keeping if you were very fitness orientated. Like you could put here how many push-ups you've done today, or how many miles have you walked, how many whatever, how many calories have you taken in. You know, this could be like a your nutrition record keeping. Now, okay, so you notice that the first three, anxiety, anger, sadness, all right, they're kind of negative. Now, whatever you scored, let's say I'll put these here, for example, whatever you scored on your table, I want you to add 1 to the score. Why? Because you're lying. And everything that's happy, so anything positive on your table, I want you to -1 score because you're lying again. Because no way in the beginning of this exercise are you going to be giving accurate and honest information. Okay, so it's a little tongue-in-cheek, but you know, I mean, just for the by, yeah, this is kind of where I'm at currently. I think, you know, so yeah. And here's another example. You know, this week I feel strong. I mean, again, maybe a bit too wordy here, but I feel stronger. I feel anxious, but not as much. You know, developing some self-reassurance. Don't really need to type that in there. I want to go further in my knowledge and skill set. So a little bit of ambition. Manifest see, what you think about, you give it life. So if you're always thinking, even if you're trying not to think about it, you're you're giving it even more energy in a way. And so if you put forward things of like your desires, what I want, what I can do and achieve, you're manifesting um, your potential. Your potential is it. You'll find your potential in places, in parts of you that you keep locked away. So another thought, I want to calibrate my thoughts, feelings for several reasons, um, but it'll also help lower the anxiety of feeling insecure. And obviously, insecure is quite a broad term, like without control, um, self doubt, a lack of faith in your own abilities. I know I'm capable. I know I'm enough. I want to produce more work, not as a way to please others, rather as a form of a legacy, as whatever. So there's some examples. I hope that that provides a bit of sort of inspiration and encouragement, and I hope people benefit from giving it a go. Um, Another quick tip is make sure you're being truthful here. No BSing yourself or other people and saying things just because it's quite like expected of you and something you're supposed to say because you don't want to feel embarrassed. You actually mean what you say. You do not have to worry about ridicule. It's got nothing to do with other people. This is about you being more connected and in touch with how you feel. Um, and by opening up with people you trust or yourself, if you're if you're an extrovert, this privacy type style of record keeping or keeping a journal or maybe recording but you keep it on a private playlist, um, it's still connecting with a person in a way, that person being yourself. So by opening up with people or trust or yourself, you build a better and healthier relationship. You are demonstrating to yourself that you do care about who you are and what matters to you. You'll find you'll probably become less scared to express yourself and you'll speak up when necessary and do so appropriately. There's no shame in our thoughts and emotions. You, you become better at articulating your wants and your needs, and you show yourself kindness and become less resentful of yourself. Learn to feel less guilt and uh, like you are carrying a heavy weight. Um, because it becomes a burden to harbor all this energy and have it not be productive in any way. And you'll probably find that this weight that you've placed upon yourself was unnecessary. So hopefully this exercise will help alleviate some of that weight or anxiety it will probably felt like. And if you're someone like me, you probably experience less regret. Um, Now you don't have to feel obliged to share it on the internet if you don't want to. If you think this exercise will help you and you decide to try it, just be sure to stick at it for a little while at least and see how you get on. See if it does any good for you. If not, you don't have no real commitment here. Sometimes the best way of letting go, and that important bold letters, let go. Sometimes the best way of let go of anxiety is to let it out, let it be out, let it out openly or privately. So that's about it, really. That's what I got to say about that, at least for now. Um, just remember the key parts here. Of remember why you're doing it. Remind yourself why you're doing it. Because you matter, because you care, because you want to change. Likely, it's, it's something you've taken note. This behavior is clunky, annoying. It's not something you want really, and maybe you felt a little bit powerless or something, or weren't sure how to go about it. So there's no need to be beating yourself up. Never mind the past. It's about stepping forward and being more responsible is the key word, I suppose, really here. And don't let this stuff, tear you to shreds mentally. Anyone want to make any comments? Because pretty much that's all I'm going to say, and then I'm going to shut the stream down. Shinobi One's entered. Good evening, Shinobi. If anyone wants to talk, book a session with me or something, you can send me an email. You can find me on Discord. The links should be in the description. And if you are choosing someone as a kind of checking in buddy, be honest and transparent. Say, hey, you mind? I'm sure if they care about you, they'll understand and help you through it. Okay, so take care, everyone, and until next time.